So we are calling our meeting to order at 6:45. And one change to our agenda is that we will be hearing from, is it Leader in Me people? Yeah, we'll have our Leader in Me presentation before the superintendent's report, if that's okay with everyone. Are there any other changes or additions, David or Angie or Jen or Colleen or Larry? No? Okay, that's great. So I will take a motion to approve the minutes from December 13th. And I see Colleen Spence's hand is raised. Is there a second? Someone could just say, hi, it's me, state your name and.
Scott, I second it, Scott.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, are there any comments, changes, clarifications that are needed in the minutes from December 13th? Hearing none. All those in favor of the minutes, I am going to go down my list of board members, starting with Bill.
Aye.
Anne Marie. No. Oh. Colleen.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Nancy.
Aye.
Rebecca.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
And Amy is aye. So our minutes have been approved. Thank you. Next up, we have Leader in Me presentation. Or no, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We have public participation on items not related to the agenda. I was excited for the Leader in Me presentation. So public participation and or announcements by board members. Colleen Deschamps.
I was wondering if I could mention our finalists from our high school science fair.
Yes, that is so exciting.
I would love to do that. In our junior class, we had 3 categories. In physical science, our top 3 winners were 3rd place Brennan Jackson, 2nd place Jade Martins, and 1st place Liam Atwood. In our category of psychology, we had 3rd place Natalie Strout, 2nd place Alexina Peckinpah, and 1st place Hollis Wilson, with an honorable mention for Skylar Thibodeau. In our behavioral science category, we had 3rd place Rain Lockwood, 2nd place Brianna Beeland, and 1st place Parley Birkland. And I do not have the sharing privileges, but I will get those to Dr. Baker or Lori so that people can see what the titles of their projects were.
Ah, that is so exciting. One question for you,
Yes.
Colleen. So are all of the people who placed, they're going to state, correct?
They are all invited to go to the state science fair. That is correct.
Oh, that is excellent. And I just want to let people know that in the past, Windsor has had an incredible experience at the state science fair. We have won medals, we have won scholarships, we've won grants, we've won just different prizes and opportunities to go to other science fairs or other different types of competitions. And at least in the past, The only other school that had a larger representation was a school up in Chittenden County called South Burlington, which is just a little bit bigger than we are. So congratulations and best of luck to our science people.
Yes, and we do have all of their professional science posters displayed in the science wing of the high school. Our past winners who went to the World State Science Fairs, as well as all of our current science fair winners. I also just wanted to mention quickly that 28 out of our 49 seniors presented their capstone presentations from semester 1 last week. And we were very thankful to have some of our administrators and principals, community members, staff members be a part of the panelists for that, as well as for science fair, and some of our community members. And this year we had 16 juniors as panelists for the senior capstones. And I'd like to just say thank you to our senior advisors, Mr. Malloy, Ms. Aylward, and Ms. Ferial, and our junior advisors for science fair, Ms. Engwall, Mr. Rivet, and Mr. Beachy. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any other announcements or public participation? Okay, hearing none. I believe now we have our presentation for Leader in Me. Yay!
So I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce you to Dana Jean Stewart and Barb Lintner. They are the team from Franklin Covey that's working with us to realize our Leader in Me dreams. And I'll turn it over to you guys right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angie, and Colleen, congratulations. That's such exciting news for all of you in Windsor School. It's fantastic. And to Kate too, of course. All right, so let me just open up this presentation here.
Are you able to have the share button, Dana Jean?
I
There
do.
you are. There it is. It's working.
Yeah, I added her.
Thank you. All right, so if I am doing this, I'm so used to Zoom. If I'm doing this, I just can't see anyone. I'm just seeing the presentation, but I'm assuming you can see me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. All right, very good. So as Angie said, I just want to do a very brief introduction. And Dana Jean Stewart, I'm a client partner for Franklin Covey Education throughout all 6 New England states. So I work with all pre-K to 12 schools throughout New England to provide them with a variety of Franklin Covey solutions to help support their schools and districts, families, communities, and really just be there to support their goals and needs and mission and vision. So Leader in Me is one of our solutions. And before I dive into too much, I'll just pass it over to Barb.
Thank you, Dana Jean. Good evening, everyone. I have some feedback, so I apologize for that. I just want to congratulate the high school students on their state science fair. That's wonderful news. Congratulations to Colleen and Kate and to all those students. I'm Barb Lintner. I'm a coach with Franklin Covey, and I work with 9 different states, mostly the New England area, starting from Pennsylvania and New York all the way up. And I was a former classroom teacher, an early ed education teacher, and I came out of the classroom in 2016 to do this work. I could work with 30 students and their families every year, or I could work with hundreds of thousands of students with the schools and the staff and the admin teams that I work with. So that is my why. I hope to convey that as we go through our presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Barb. So what we are going to do is take this time to just talk through the Leader in Me process and help you understand, more so the framework to the model, how this is aligning with WSESU's goals, strategic plan, portrait of a graduate, and then just be able to align, really align the model to all that you're trying to accomplish as a district. We'll then, of course, leave room at the end for any questions that you might have. So without further ado, I'll jump into just, again, a very high level description of what Leader in Me is. So Leader in Me is really focused on driving measurable results around these three areas of leadership, culture, and academics. And you can see from this diagram that the three areas are woven together because we believe that all three areas are equally as important and should equally be a focus to really build up a school, in many different ways. So the idea of, again, with Leader in Me is also working with a student from, again, the pre-K through the 12th grade, when they graduate, to build the skills necessary to be able to not only thrive through their pre-K to 12 experience, but also thrive throughout life in their career choices, their college courses, whatever path they decide to take. So we are equipping them with the skills necessary to succeed in life in general. And within these three areas, we bring in three different content areas of Franklin Covey. The foundation of the model being the 7 habits of highly effective people. And we use that content in the very beginning of the process, and we start with the staff and helping them understand what the 7 habits are and ways that they can model the 7 habits with their students and across the staff in general. So the 7 habits really work to align with the leadership skill building, and also creating a common language across all levels, across the district, across the schools, and then bringing the language of the 7 habits home, and having the families understand what the 7 habits are. We also bring in the speed of trust, and the speed of trust content really helps to build the culture of the school, really helps to build trust across the staff, across the district and the individual school buildings, across the teachers and the students in the classroom. And so there's many different ways, as we know, where trust is so key and so important to the success of everything that we do. So we bring that in to support the culture. And then with academics, we use the speed of trust to really make sure that the students are feeling empowered to lead their own learning. And that's where that trust relationship between the teacher and the student is so critical. Along the lines of academics, we have the 4 disciplines of execution. And this is the kind of the goal setting aspect of our model. So we're not just explaining that goals are important, which we know in so many different ways, but we're helping kids starting at a very young age understand how to actually, what needs to be done to get to a goal? What do you need to do to reach a goal? What are the lead measures that need to be put into place? So there's a lot of things that go into achieving a goal, and having a student set both personal and academic goals and seeing them meet those goals and get there is a real accomplishment, and really teaches them a lot of skills around accountability and responsibility. So throughout the process, it's typically a 3-year implementation. We started working with the district in July to set a foundation of what we wanted to accomplish, which we'll get into that alignment in a little bit. But that's the general idea of this model and the areas that we focus on with a 3-year implementation process. So this is Franklin Covey Education's student leadership portrait, which really portrays the idea of the different skills that we're developing throughout that pre-K to 12 experience. So we start with leading self, the personal effectiveness, the blue area of the diagram. And in order to get to a point where you have the ability to lead others, we do first need to focus on ourselves. So we're developing strengths to be able to have, students set themselves up to become much more independent and understand the idea of self-regulation, ideas around ways, they can build up their personal effectiveness, or what we refer to in the 7 habits, for those who know it, their private victory. So we're really thinking about prioritization, time management skills, what it means to set a goal, what it means to set a mission for yourself and continue to live that mission every single day. So really having that vision of what one wants to accomplish. And then, just understanding too that this diagram really portrays the importance of developing the whole person. And so that's what that center diagram represents, is we refer to it as habit number 7, or sharpening the saw, that while we're focusing on ourselves and developing skills to allow them to lead others, it's always important that we're creating balance in order to be effective and focusing on our body, our mind, our heart, and our spirit. So the skills around leading others and really getting into that interpersonal effectiveness. I know a lot of this shows up not only in Portrait of a Graduate, but also some of the goals set in your strategic plan. Collaboration and communication, understanding the importance of listening skills, relationship building, understanding empathy, and how those listening skills and communication skills really help with empathy. And then there's all the leadership skills. And that's where we bring in the idea of how trust really helps develop relationships and really allows you to model as a leader, and sharing purpose and empowering potential. So all of these skills and ideas are brought in by some of the content I just showed you in the previous slide. And we do believe that when a student goes through the Leader in Me process throughout their pre-K to 12 experience, they are going to graduate with all of these skills and be a more interpersonal, effective, interdependent individual. So this slide breaks down the 7 habits and the competencies and character traits that come with the different habits. For those of you that aren't very aware of the 7 habits of highly effective people, this breaks it down in a really nice way, and again brings in some of those traits and character qualities that you're looking to achieve within a Portrait of a Graduate. So habits 1 to 3, that's again focusing on leading yourself. That's where we focus on the idea of being proactive, really setting a goal and understanding, what you're setting out to do in a given week, in a given month, in a given year, or 5 years from now. Prioritization, putting first things first. So again, competencies, we're talking about goal setting, we're talking about time management, organization, all the things that we really need to make sure that we are managing before we can start to really be a model and lead others. So character traits, responsibility, taking initiative, having vision. So going back to beginning with the end in mind. And then integrity. I know integrity is one of the character traits in the Portrait of a Graduate. And so that really shows up in habits 1 through 3, where they really learn how to build integrity in themselves. Moving to habits 4 to 6 is where you do start to build those skills to allow you to be more interdependent and collaborate and communicate with others. So we're thinking about think win-win. We're thinking about listening skills, collaboration, synergizing. Think win-win is all about mutual benefit. So that leads to the ability to understand how to be a more empathetic person. And I know, again, empathy is something that you want these students to graduate understanding. So listening skills, teamwork, problem solving, conflict management, critical thinking, all of those important skills that you're looking to achieve. And then when you think about the character that those habits are building, you know, we're looking for students to really understand valuing diversity and respect and honesty. So again, we're looking at the whole person, developing the whole person. When I showed you the center of that student leadership portrait, that goes back to the habit 7 and creating that balance and thinking about the social, emotional, and mental health of a student, in addition to all these other competencies and character traits. So important for not only our students, but our staff to be in a place where they are, you know, their mental health is, you know, being supported. And every day they're walking away with some social emotional learning, which is so important right now. We know it's been forever, but right now it's really very much needed. So I like this slide because I do think it speaks to a lot of what the district is trying to accomplish and build up in all of their students before they graduate. So I just want to dive into mental health a little bit more because I know that's another important part to your strategic plan and Portrait of a Graduate. So this is kind of a foundation that comes from the Canadian Comprehensive School Health. It's a framework they developed with these 4 pillars. And we think that this foundation aligns really nicely with Leader in Me and creates a really strong foundation to support mental health. So Leader in Me is a model that really does show up in so many different things that the school, the staff, the community, the families are all already doing. Pillar number 1, with social and physical environment, you know, Leader in Me uses leadership practices to build a feeling of community, establish a common vision, establish a common language through the 7 habits, and really focus on building trust amongst all levels within a building in a district. And so all the activities that are happening and that students are encouraged to do within this model really support the social and physical environment. And I'll get to that of the physical environment after this slide. So pillar 2 is all about teaching and learning. And so when we're talking about Leader in Me, we're integrating social emotional learning school-wide, but not only in the classrooms and in the school, but also bringing it home to the families and the community. And families and community are always brought into this model. We're bringing families, you know, we're teaching families about the 7 habits and how they can be used at home in the very first year when this model is implemented. And we know the importance of connecting families to schools and how families can really help strengthen a school building. So as students are learning social emotional skills, they're then applying these skills within a school setting through various opportunities and leadership roles with, you know, public speaking. We encourage service learning, again, really giving back and getting involved in the community. They're using it for their goal achievement. They're becoming involved in schools, you know, with different leadership roles and responsibilities, and just really taking time to apply all that they're learning, not only again through school-wide activities, but also activities in the community. So pillar 3, partnerships and services. And this really goes to the idea that as a model, Leader in Me is creating systems and processes to help strengthen everything that's happening in a school. So we're doing this in ways to support partnerships that are already being created, partnerships and communities that we haven't yet created and we know will help strengthen our schools, and just reaching out to the larger community and bringing everyone together. So in supporting each other in various different ways. And then when we talk about pillar number 4 in a healthy school policy, Leader in Me, it's very much a whole school improvement model. And we're focused on starting with the adults. It's a very much an inside out approach. And so when we begin the training, which we did in August, we first trained staff on the 7 habits, and they went through that foundation to understand what they are and practice the 7 habits amongst themselves, to be able to then learn how to model those behaviors for their students. So we can't really make a profound impact if we're not first practicing those behaviors and really understanding them ourselves. So that's the idea of the approach, is the adults, we create the foundation, the adults model the behavior and support the school in so many different ways, socially, emotionally, academically. And then we continue to work with the schools to create systems and strengthen systems, and continue to build these skills that I refer to as, you know, personal and interpersonal leadership skills. So the model becomes a very ubiquitous approach and does end up showing up in everything that's happening in the school. So in terms of the staff being equipped to model the behavior for each other and their students and their families, we're starting that on day 1. We're providing a curriculum to be able to, for the staff to provide direct teach lessons, which all are scaffolded and come with a scope and sequence. And each lesson is unique throughout a child's pre-K to 12 experience. I mentioned the physical environment, and that's a really important part, and where we're looking to make sure that a school is a warm, safe, and welcoming place for every student to walk into every day. So it is something, when we think about that area of culture, it is something that we focus on when we start implementing the model around culture. We want the physical environment to be a focus. We want the environment to be colorful and lively and inspirational. We want students to feel engaged. We want them to come to school. So that's a really important aspect of the implementation process. And then with curriculum instruction, it shows up in absolutely every subject, any type of teaching that happens, because Leader in Me and the 7 habits can be applied to a gym lesson. The 7 habits can be applied to a history lesson. You know, and as the implementation process moves and continues and strengthens, we're using that language in everything we're teaching our kids. You know, think win-win, be proactive. It becomes part of all that we're doing. So we are aligning ourselves to traditions that are already happening at the school. We're aligning ourselves to initiatives that are already happening at the school. This isn't meant to take, you know, away from anything that's happening. This is actually looked at as an operating system for the school. And it's looked as a model to really strengthen everything that's already happening and everything in place. And what's unique too is that the 4 schools that are implementing this model can all look different. This is not an out-of-the-box program, and it's really meant to align to what each of the individual school buildings are trying to achieve. And that is what Barb is helping these school leaders to do. So I'm going to pass this over to Barb, and she's going to continue explaining the alignment of this model to the district.
Thank you, Dana Jean. So think of Leader in Me and how it aligns with everything that you're already doing, as some of the things are noted on the slide. Many schools are dealing with this. PBIS, social emotional learning, restorative practices, mental health. attendance, parent engagement. And what we want you to think about Leader in Me is it's the mortar that holds it together. These are all multi-initiative. Schools are, in process. And we want you to think of Leader in Me as the mortar that holds it together. If you would go to the next slide. That's based on a foundational practice that we have, which is the See, Do, Get. And it's based on the idea that the way we see the world, our paradigms, really affect what we do, which gets us results. And so if we want to have an impact, or we want to change the results we're getting, we need to go back to our paradigm, because the paradigms really do direct what we do. And it's really the way that we see the world, not necessarily as reality is. And so this is one of our foundational models that we build this framework around. If you could go to the next slide. So this is the Leader in Me framework. And I hope you can see some of the finer detail. As you can see, the See, Do, Get, it's based off of that. And these are our 5 core paradigms. Everyone can be a leader. Everyone has genius. Change starts with me. Educators empower students to lead their own learning. And educators and families partner to develop the whole person. So if we truly see these paradigms and we do these effective practices in leadership, that's 7 habits and core paradigms, teaching the adults in the building, that's our families and community as well, or we're teaching the students, and we build and create a culture of leadership, looking at the physical as well as the social emotional leadership environment. And we share leadership with our students so that we engage their voice and we create opportunities for them to practice those 7 habit skills or PBIS or any of our SEL skills that we're asking them to demonstrate, to bring in and have that inside out approach. We're creating that environment. Then we're layering on that academics piece, which is the goal setting, where we truly will empower students to lead their own learning. It will no longer be my data, but their data. And the process of the 4 disciplines of execution is one that it's not only we're setting goals, we're tracking goals, and we're getting success. And we have accountability around it. Very simple approach, but it's to get results and for the students to be able to experience that. So there's a game on switch that they're engaged in truly their learning. And with that, we then create empowered learners as we go deeper into our instructional practices in our classroom. We have the leadership portfolios where they're able to have conversations with other adults in the building and their parents in student-led conferences. And we look at our instructional practices to say, how can we further empower students to lead their own learning, to engage them and lead their own learning? And so if we do those highly effective practices, which I just went through, that's a 3 to 5 year process that a school or a district is undertaking, then we are going to get results in leadership, culture, and academics. And all of Leader in Me is designed to get results. We must get results. We must get results in our school. We must get results in our district. We must get results around our family and community partners, with our staff, and with our students. So this framework, and Dana Jean mentioned it earlier, it's like an operating system where we align the things that we're already doing, and we're going to be able to do them then through the lens of Leader in Me, so that we truly do get results, that we have highly effective students and adults who are leaders in their school and in their community, that we create that high trust culture, that everybody's voice is heard and affirmed, right? The Leader in Me as a process is summed up in one quote from Dr. Stephen Covey. Leadership is communicating worth and potential so clearly, you are inspired to see it in yourself. You, the staff member, you, the student, and you, the family and parent that's connected to the school community. And that goes out into the wider community. This is what business leaders, parents, schools have demanded and want to see their students graduate, much like your portrait of a graduate, right? And if we engage students who are truly looking and equip them to achieve, to lead their own learning, it starts back here at the paradigms. And that's why we bring it first as the 7 habits to the adults. And we look to shift some of these paradigms about how truly we do see everyone can be a leader, not just a few students, not just a few teachers, but everyone in the building can be a leader. Everyone has genius. If we truly see that, we'll behave like they have genius, and we're going to get the results that they have genius. And so change does begin with us. If you want to go to the next slide. How do we measure this? How do we measure that we're getting the results? So this is a 360 survey. It's called the MRA, the Measurable Results Assessment. It's 4th grade students and above, families and staff. And we do this as a baseline, and then we do it toward the end of our school year, usually in April, early May, so that we truly see what do the staff, students, and families think. What are their thoughts and feelings through the survey? If you go to the next slide, what the MRA truly is measuring is these areas highlighted in red, green, and blue. Now, each of the 4 schools have their specific MRA targets, what they're targeting to get a result this year. The district has targeted staff social emotional teaching readiness, supportive school environment, and teaching efficacy. This is where it starts as our baseline. We need to have the staff so that we can have the staff model and work with the students and the wider family involvement. So if we go to the next slide. So this summer we did an alignment. We looked at what are the main district initiatives and what are their goals and purposes? And then how do they align with the framework that I just shared with you and the 7 habits? And you can see what the results were.
Barb, will you be sharing the, is it possible to share the slideshow so that then I can put it
Yes.
with the
Yes.
recording? Thank you.
Yes. I think Dana Jean already shared that with you.
Thank you.
So when we share this with our staff realizes this isn't just one more thing. This is the way that we can get results in the things that matter most to us. That's the purpose of Leader in Me. It's leadership, communicating worth and potential, inspiring others to see their in themselves, but it's also to get results. If you want to go to the next slide. With that, this might be a good time to do some questions.
Rebecca, your hand is raised.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you for the presentation because now I think I'm really getting it. I've been hearing a lot about it, but now I think I'm getting it. I did like that slide that you presented, Barbara, with the mortar, because I kept on hearing of so many programs that the school has, but seeing it with the mortar just really helped me. Okay. So I thought the slides were really excellent. And Dana Jean, I just wanted to comment because you made a point to speak to physical environment. And I recently did a tour of the school, And you're so right. As I'm walking around in the school, it felt welcoming, it felt warm, and you can see wanting to be there, and be it student, be it staff, be it administrator, whatever. And you're right. It's like that sort of foundation that's needed to make you even feel, okay, I'm here, and all right, I feel good about being here. Now let me move in those other directions I need to move in. So I did want to thank you very much. I did have a question though, and my question was, you spoke to a 3-year period, 3 to 5 years, and what I was wondering is, will you be able to, at the end, for instance, of a year, be able to present outcomes from what you have been doing? To me, it would be like a celebration. It would be saying, okay, folks, this is where we started and this is where we are. We still have, we still have places, to go, but this is where we're at. And to me, it sounds like a celebration and kind of like a, all right, we did all this. Okay, let's move on now. So that's my question. Will you be able to do that at a certain period, as opposed to at the end of your stretch there?
Dana Jean, I can address that too.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just shaking my head because I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that'll happen.
Yeah. So, Rebecca, I shared that REA survey, which is a very detailed survey that really gets a snapshot of how we're feeling as a staff, the students, and the parent community. And we take a baseline of that, which we have. And then when we begin to implement the process, and each year that we do the process, we retake that in the spring. So we do the baseline once. And then as we're implementing this, and it's going to be organic, some of us are starting at different places. Some of us are going to go deeper in culture. Some will go deeper dive in leadership. We do leadership and culture first. That's the first thing that we implement. Not that we're not working on academics, but we feel it's just too much to focus on for our building because we're really transforming culture. We're taking what you already do and we're doing it through the lens of leadership, that we can all be leaders, staff, students, families, parents, and that takes time. And so think of it as, we plug this big, nice crock pot in, and it's plugged in. And then each school will be doing in the sprinkle of their ingredients to make that meld into something really beautiful. And it's going to look different in each of the buildings. But what will be common is the language that you'll hear, the sense of belonging that happens for not just staff members. You're going to see the students begin to truly run the school, because we're going to be engaging them in leadership roles that are not just in the classroom, but also school-wide. And you could go to a school that one of your buildings in their 3rd or 4th year, and you would walk in and the students would be pretty much doing most of the events that happen at the school. The back to school night would be run by them. And so what we're doing is we're creating this culture of, giving them the skills and the habits and the practices of the habits, a common language, and then giving them an opportunity to put those into practice. So they apply, they interview for jobs. The students first, we teach into that, but those roles then become, the students will be interviewing the next group of students. They'll be teaching those students the roles of what to do in that position. And what are we doing? We're creating an environment where, a 6th grader knows what it's like to apply for a job, and why is that important, and why would they be good? And they're beginning to see that, hey, people here see my passion, they see my genius. And when they come out of high school, they're demanding leadership. They're prepared for leadership. So those are, how each school addresses that is very unique to the school and the culture of the school, what's already in place. But that MRA survey tells us a lot of data points, and it's measuring what we're really assessing what we're doing in our building. And then we set new targets for the next year based on the data. So if we're really high and hitting great with staff, but we see that parents need to be connected or students still feel they need to have a greater sense of leadership, that becomes our new target. And then we do everything, right? See, do, get, that becomes the result we want to get this year. What do we need to do to get that result? And what is our paradigm that's going to guide us? Because then we set that in motion. And I, as the coach, repeatedly meet throughout the year with the teams, both action planning and supporting the teams, but also reflecting on what are the results we're getting? What are we doing to get those results? And what's our paradigm? And that usually takes us to a next step and an action plan. So it's a very intentional process of support and coaching to really implement a unique leadership culture in their building, using the leader in me as the framework, the backbone of which to put all these things in. Others?
This is Amy. This is so very exciting. I'm thinking, oh, I want to be a student.
Yes. Yes, you do.
And so my daughter graduated 4 years ago and my son graduated 6 years ago. And this would have just knocked them over. Yeah, it's really cool. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments?
Amy, do you mind if I jump in for just a moment?
Oh, that's fine. Sure.
So one of the things that I feel like is really helpful with is the whys of why we're doing Leader in Me. I feel like for so many years we've been trying to move towards direction, and Leader in Me puts us in a position of understanding the whys. It's very clear about the whys. We also have a lot of things that tell us not only the whys, but the hows to do it. And I think that's also incredibly helpful for putting meat on the bones, as I like to say. So the actual doing in action. So we think about, trauma-informed practices, why we do it, and then the how we do it. There's lots of things to do with the hows. You talked about the mortar. It's the mortar of the process. And I'm wondering if you can help us get a clear sense of how we connect the important why we're doing this work of Leader in Me, because it aligns with so much of what we're already trying to do, and helps us bridge the gap between the detailed hows. Does that make sense? So like teaching math in a specific way is a how-to, or teaching trauma-informed practices in a specific way is a how-to. Can you help us understand how the mortar bridges the gap between the whys and the hows in a way that makes it uniform? Because I think that's part of the magic of the work, but I think it's also helpful to try and articulate it in a way that makes it accessible for people.
Do you want me to go there, Dana Jean? Do you want to put the mortar slide back on? Yeah, so when we think about the different initiatives that we're doing, right, in our building, and a lot of buildings, this is very typical of a district, right, or a school. The Leader in Me becomes that mortar in the sense that it brings it all together, right? So it's not one more thing as a program that sits on the side, but a process. And the framework is through the lens of which we do that. And so when we did that alignment activity and we saw that the things that we were doing and how it aligned to that framework, and if you want to put that slide on too, Dana Jean, that would be helpful because that's specific to your district, right? So when we're talking about the trauma-informed schools, we're looking at the paradigm of change is what connects us, right? Change does begin with me. And that's a very powerful thing that the staff starts with, right? Is to change the paradigms around what trauma and what students with trauma are coming into our buildings. It also impacts the motivation, education, right? And then where on that framework does it align? Well, we have to do new and ongoing staff learning, not only in the Leader in Me, right? We have new staff or ongoing staff. We have to keep that fresh. We have that 7 habits training, but if we're not doing something regularly, 5-10 minutes at a staff meeting, then we're not, and to drive those practices of the habits deeper, we all get the language, right? Be proactive, but the habits, the practices of habit 1 are what we want to drive deeper. And so when we do that, it's the same with trauma informed. If we just do a once and done, our staff isn't going to be able to really, use that in their practice, right? So it's aligning to when we're doing professional development, we want to think, how does this connect to the paradigms? What about the trauma informed can we look at through the lens of those paradigms that we're really trying to have our staff, understand, model, believe, see, right? It's like when we look at, collaborative problem solving or equity, anti-racism, right? Look at the areas of the framework that it aligns to. And so when we say aligns, it means we can teach this, we can address these initiatives through the lens of Leader in Me. It's putting the systems in place that is happening. Those conversations are happening. And so, the mortar is the why, right? Why are we doing Leader in Me? Because it's going to allow us to get the results we want to get with equity, with trauma informed, with our portrait of a graduate, with MTSS, right? It's going to help us get the results we want to get in a way that we're empowering the very people that need to be empowered to be part of that solution, right? The students are ultimately, and the families that we want to empower. And this first process happens for our staff. If you were to go to a building and ask the building that has not had their training in 7 habits to say, how many of you staff members feel that you're a leader? You might have 4 or 5. You might have the director of curriculum. You might have a school counselor might see themselves as a leader, because they're doing things, but not many people see themselves, particularly staff, see themselves as leaders. And so we have to change that paradigm so that we can change the paradigm of staff in looking at our students through a different lens. So I'd say that's the gap, the bridging of the gap is to be able to think about how do we do trauma-informed and anti-race, for example, within the context of what we want students to graduate with, and using that Leader in Me as a framework to do it. Does that help, Jen? Okay. And maybe Dana Jean, you want to add something to that? Or you?
I think that sums it up, Barb. I think the framework that, showing the framework and all that comes with the framework. There's a lot on that slide, as you said, but just being able to always go back to that framework with every coaching opportunity, and sticking to that. We have that framework to use every single time we're meeting with the leaders of the school buildings, and that's keeping us on track, and it's bringing us back to our why and how we're going to do it. So it's it's a great tool to be able to use throughout the implementation process.
So go back up to that rubric that you mentioned it again, Dana Jean, and just share that. If you look at the bulleted items of the framework, you got one more. There we go. If you can make that larger, you'll see those bulleted areas under each of the, there's 6 areas. So if we were to start and do all of our work at the beginning of a year and have that content training, we would be looking at 3 years of content. It's called Core 1, Core 2, Core 3. Core 1 is leadership, starting with the adults and teaching the students to lead. It's also elements of that. So under that, you'll see like teach students to lead. We start with direct lessons. We first need to bring the 7 habits to the students. The second year, or Core 2, we start looking at how can we integrate it into our content? How can we eliminate the unimportant in math? How can we synergize in science? And so most staff members, though, begin to do it organically. They begin to, once they've done the direct teach, but we don't want to overwhelm them by saying, okay, you're going to do a direct teach and you also have PBIS and you have other things going on. So just the direct teach, let's just lay the foundation of the 7 habits to our students. And then coming back the second content year, let's see what we can integrate it into what we're already doing. And there's, literature lists of books that staff already have on their shelves that go through the different practices of the habits and how you can use that in the lens of Leader in Me. And then the third year, we come back and we're looking at service learning. So now we have our students fully living the 7 habits, applying those 7 habits in culture, right? Because our first year, we just look at leadership and culture. We know you're always working on academics, but we don't bring that goal setting until year 2 or Core 2. And so we're laying pieces of the framework each year so that this could be a 3 to 5 year process, depending on the school. We say go slow to go fast, because this is not a microwave. It's not a plug and play program. It's a process, and it takes time to change the paradigms of the people in the building, of the staff, who are ultimately 60% of what they do in their classroom will be modeling this. 10 to 15% is a direct teach. You do it every year. The language is the first to come. We integrate it into what we're already teaching, 15 to 20%, but most of what the staff will do will be modeling it, which is why we need to continually have ongoing staff learning. What do we do about new staff? And then we go our year 2, we look at, those family and community partners. Now, how can we bring this experience to family? So we have the 7 habits of highly effective families. We do them where the model is that a coach might do a session of the 7 habits of highly effective families for a group of parents that are your very connected, maybe your PTA, maybe your parents that are very interested in this process, and living it as a family, as well as what their students are doing, their children are doing in the schools. And then they will be the models that will teach the parents. So it's parents teaching parents. And that's in your year 3, starting in year 2, but really deeply going into year 3. Same with our physical environment, our social emotional, they impact each other. What you see impacts how you feel. And so we do that the first year. But over the years, what happens is we have a rubric that's attached to each of these bulleted areas where it begins with staff create, staff do, to eventually staff and students, to eventually staff, students, and families. And so we're really creating a leadership school where everyone can be a leader. Everyone has genius. Change begins with me. Educators empower students to lead their own learning, and families and educators partner to develop the whole child.
Again, wow. That's just really exciting.
That's why we do this work. We get to do this work.
I want to thank Barb and Dana Jean for coming this evening and helping our board understand Leader in Me. I hope that was our goal, and I hope the board members do feel that they have a better understanding of what we are accomplishing and why it was so attractive to us as a leadership team that it checked all our boxes of what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. We so enjoy working with you.
Yeah, thank you for coming and for this presentation. It's very informative, very exciting. And I think that any of our community members who watch this recording will also feel very excited about what's happening at all of our schools. So thank you.
Great. And I'll get that PowerPoint over to you tonight, Angie. All right. Enjoy the rest of your meeting and evening, everyone.
Yes, enjoy the rest of your evening and meeting. Good night,
All right.
everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to go back to school.
Yeah.
Or be a parent in the school again, because that would be fun too. But I guess I am a community member for all of our schools. So I too could attend any of these workshops or conversations, couldn't I? Yay. Yeah, thank you. Are there any other comments before we move on to our superintendent's report? Hearing and seeing none, I'm turning it over to you, David. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Amy. And I also want to say, it's probably obvious to everyone that with that work that's going on with Leader in Me, it's also been a challenging year to implement that work, right? Because we're just wanting to make sure every day we're staffed up and able to operate a building. And so far we haven't had to close anywhere, but it's been a challenge. And that's why when we say 1 to 3 years, it probably is going to be more like 1 to 5 years, because we've lost a little bit of this year as we move ahead. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go fairly quickly, and maybe we can save, questions for the end if you've got questions, just because I know time is marching on here. So let me just share. Oops. Let me share from the beginning, huh? Here we go. Okay, I assume everybody can see that and everybody can hear me. So let's give the famous COVID update. I'm so sick of giving COVID updates, but I'm going to do it quickly here. Test to stay, we've shifted the focus under the new state guidance, right? Much of the responsibility now is on the families and the honor system. Our families have been very cooperative and have, been doing everything we asked them to do. We're going through about 80 test kits a week that we distribute to families and staff if they need them. Lori's good, my administrative assistant. Lori's good about keeping up with ordering the tests, and she keeps in touch with the nurses. The nurses let us know how many they're using, and Lori will oftentimes jump in her car and deliver those tests. And then we get them to the families the best way that we can. This has been a little bit controversial with a couple of parents, not terribly, but this return to play has been implemented, and we use the VPA and AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics guidelines. Return to play means that anybody who's tested positive for COVID, once they're done with their quarantine period, they can't return to cardio activity, especially sports, but we also include PE, because a floor hockey game in PE is very similar to a basketball game in sports, and they have to be cleared by their personal care physician, and it's a little tough. Some personal care physicians, especially our local ones at Mount Scottney and some of the clinics, close by, are being very responsive to this need, and it's just a matter of a phone call, and then we don't monitor it. We don't necessarily check it. We don't have to talk to the PCP or to the doctor or the nurse practitioner. We just need to have the parent say, yeah, I checked in and he's good to go. So it is the honor system. If a parent were to come right out and say, no, I'm not going to go to a physician, or we're not going to get cleared, then we can't right now, under the current guidelines, allow them to participate. We are feeling pretty good about the average number of students who are vaccinated across the SU. We continue to work on a more accurate count. Not everybody reports when they're vaccinated. Not all adults are reporting when they're fully vaccinated with their boosters. So our nurses, they trust our nurses, they do tell them, but that data is coming in somewhat slowly. The staff has been informed that fully vaccinated now means that you have to have your booster, and that's by Vermont Department of Health definitions. And as we want to thanks to Weathersfield School and the Ascutney Fire Department for the clinic they held this Saturday. I think they had over 75 participants who came in and either got their booster shot or their vaccination. That was, I think, a real tribute to that community. And I know they weren't all Weathersfield adults. Did I hear somebody's hand go up, Amy?
Yes, it was Anne Marie.
Yeah, because I can't see the people. Anne Marie, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you. I figured you'd ask. I just wanted to raise my hand for at the end, but I just wanted to say that both myself and Nikki, who can't be here tonight, we disagree a bit with the return to play standards. I guess from what Nikki tells me, she contacted a person at the Vermont Department of Health, and that they agreed that our policy seems like too much and is contrary to the AOE's goal of making school feel more normal. We feel like it's a bit of an overstep for the school to insist on parents taking their children to the doctor before they can return to recess, PE. I mean, I understand that sport is a bit different. Sometimes they have different rules as far as needing, certain things met. But, we just feel as though it's a little bit of an overreach on the school's part to force parents to take their kids to a primary care doctor. If they haven't had if they had COVID and it was non-symptomatic, or, I really don't see a need for them to go to see their doctor.
I'm hearing a couple of other hands. I don't know if you want to take those hands before I respond, Amy.
Well, I'm just, I will call on them in just a moment after I just read. I am looking at the VPA, unless they have changed their recommendations, and VPA is the Vermont Principals Association. Okay, I lost it. Okay, return to play after illness, consistent with the most current guidance available by the American Academy of Pediatrics. All children and adolescents through age 22 diagnosed with COVID-19 infection, regardless of symptom severity, may not return to play until asymptomatic for at least 14 days and cleared by their primary care physician. So that's where this is coming from, is from the Vermont Principals Association. That might have changed, but I honestly.
Yeah, I think the other piece that Anne Marie was talking about, Amy, is the fact that we extended that also to PE and recess. Not that a student can't go to PE and recess until they're cleared, but they can't participate in aggressive, cardio physical activity that would raise that same concern about their health at that point. I'm told that the AAP, in conjunction with the with the Vermont Department of Health or with the CDC and then the Vermont Department of Health, these things all trickle down, that they are, they are rethinking the guidelines. I think the issue for us right now is that we have a COVID task force that includes our 4 nurses, and our 4 nurses who are licensed school nurses, and they're also licensed RNs. I think they just really worry about allowing a student. I know we've had a couple of students, I won't name the building, that have not been cleared because they can't get a good EKG, or they're getting an irregular heartbeat. And this is not stuff to play around with. COVID, the pediatric COVID has really created some issues around myopathy. And I think that I'm not an expert. That's why I try to follow the guidelines, but I agree. It can be tough. And what's especially tough is if a parent can't just do a telemed or call their PCP. And I'm told that that's happening pretty well locally. And our local pediatricians, by local, I mean the Scotney Hospital. But they're the ones that are encouraging us to stay with this for a while. But I don't know what's happening in Springfield. And I'm told Dartmouth isn't cooperating really well. So it's across state boundaries. It is difficult. Were there a couple of other hands?
Yeah, so first is Colleen, then Bill, and then Annette Jennings, I believe. So Colleen Spence.
Well, after just listening to you, David, it hadn't occurred to me that the possibility is that we're trying to get some screenings on heart stuff. I don't know. I mean, is that the purpose of it? Is trying to get people to go take their kids to a doctor?
Yeah. What we're being told,
They've had
Colleen, is that
COVID?
if the child, this is what we're being told by our local pediatricians, and local again, we're talking about Dr. Bender and Mount Scotney. What we're being told is it's a matter of a simple phone call. If the student was asymptomatic and the student's got a good record with that pediatrician and they don't have any preconditions or autoimmune issues, heart issues, then generally over the phone, they'll just ask a couple of questions and then they'll clear them to play. But sometimes they want to see the student. And that's what happens.
Ideally, they ask a couple of questions, they hear something that
concerns
them, and then they get some kid in.
And then they'll bring the
for
kid
further
in.
testing, which is that seems reasonable. Forcing to state it like we're forcing all of the kids to go to a doctor sounds like not quite accurate. I don't know. I may be misunderstanding what Amory's asking about, but to me, that seems like a good public health process to hopefully get some kids checked if there might be some heart stuff going on.
And I'll tell you what Anne-Marie said, I completely understand because if you call the AOE or you talk to the AOE, which Nikki did do, that's part of the problem. They're very vague and they've got a lot of gray, and they'll tell you, well, that's not exactly what we meant, but well, then change the guidance and tell us we don't have to do it then. That's what our nurses want to have happen. Our nurses just want somebody from the Vermont Department of Health or somebody from the AOE to say, just ignore that. Don't worry about it. But right now, we don't have that authority. And most of the other districts are doing the exact same thing. I met with the Southeast superintendents last week, and I'm told that their nurses are holding the line on this one with both. I don't know if
we had to do that with Hartford, with Alec and basketball, and it was a simple call, and they did ask a couple of questions, but I don't keep up with what the requirements are. I have to say I count on my partner for that. So I just wanted to dig a little bit. Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, I'm mostly just digging. I'm finding information on this. I'm finding difficult. I wonder if someone can send me the links to read the recommendations from the state or the recommendations from AAP. But if it's as David described, that a simple a phone call to the primary care physician to get cleared to go back to recess after a positive COVID test, I think that's fairly reasonable. Mostly because it's a screening process, and my guess is what the nursing staff is thinking of. It's a screening process in case there is, especially if there's a case of a issue that the doctor would know about, a pre-existing condition, a child who has issues with periodic issues with their lungs, with bronchitis or tonsils or anything like that. I just think it's sort of I think it's a nice safety mechanism.
Thank you, Bill. Annette, is it Jennings?
Yes, it's me. I'm the school nurse in Heartland. So all of us nurses are on the same page. When we met with Dr. Baker the other day, we hold to these return to play guidance that we're being asked to follow. We've all been in contact with Mary Bender, who pretty much heads us up at Mount Escutney. I've talked to White River Family Practice. I've talked to the pediatric office at APD. They've all come to a conclusion. Some offices differ on how they're handling each particular patient who's tested positive for COVID that's a child, but they're all holding up this VPA guidelines. They've requested that we hold this with PE and recess in case there would be a child who does now have some sort of COVID inflammation in the chest or new cardiac onset of a disorder that's come from COVID, which has clearly been happening. We're following the guidelines from AAP, which is also being, followed by the practices. And we just really feel that it is not the responsibility currently at this time for the school nurses to clear a student to return from COVID. We don't diagnose anyone. That's not within our scope of practice. And we would prefer that the doctors clear their students, patients, of any kind of dysrhythmia or inflammation in the chest, to return them back to school and not leave that to us currently at this time.
And, with all of this, and I'll put the, Bill, for you, I'll put those American Academy, because they're the clearest. I'll put the American Academy of Pediatrics guidance in the chat if somebody hasn't already done that. But I will tell you, too, that this is the honor system, too. I mean, it's not like we're visiting houses or calling doctors, we just, we trust our parents. I mean, the only place we're having difficulty, and it was only with a couple of parents, is when they say, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. I'm not going to call my doctor. I'm not, then if they dig in, then, we just have to say, then that's the way it is. And if the guidance changes, we'll change it. But I understand it's hard, and not all pediatricians are handling it exactly the same way, which is a problem. But anything else on that? And I'll keep you posted, believe me, because we discuss it every single week in our COVID task force.
There are Anne Marie and then Annette.
Yeah, I just not all doctors are handling it the same way, and I just worry that it's going to affect lower income people more so than others, because they may not have a pediatrician, the same one that they see all the time. They might just go into urgent care or whatever, and I'm just thinking that things like this can add up. And I think it's a good policy to have the kids checked. It's definitely good to have them checked. I just think maybe this should be covered with COVID money or something. I don't see why it should fall to each individual family to have to cover this cost. And I just worry that some of them won't be able to, and then the kids aren't going to get to be at recess, which you said now, David, that it's only like if there's something really crazy going on, but is that that's not what I understood it to be?
Well, Yeah, and see, what I meant by that, Anne Marie, is only if there's an irregularity that the personal care physician has or provider has found. I mean, our nurses don't feel comfortable, with that diagnosis, so that's why they want this to stay in place. But Anne Marie, to your point, I've thought about this, and when we meet again this week, I was going to bring this up. I mean, we do, our nurses have great relationships with our parents, and they can sometimes get appointments that the parents can't get, and so they're trying to work on this. But if there's an undue hardship or it's a cost, I agree with you, Anne Marie. We should do our best to try to cover it or facilitate it if we can, and we're going to talk about that this week. I think that's a good point. Did Annette have another comment, or was that?
Yeah, Annette, and then Bill, and then we really need to move on.
So we're just waiting on new guidance that's coming from American Journal of Pediatrics. They work closely with our group that we have in UVM called VCHIP, and they're working on hopefully releasing a new set of guidelines for the VPA to return to play within the next week or two. So hopefully some of this will be a little less for all of us to have to bear in the upcoming week or two.
Thank you, Annette. Bill?
Basically, it's some a response to some of the chat and so forth. There's never going to be any perfect system, but basically this is a way for the school district and individual schools to follow through on something that's called due diligence. Okay. There's no way this is going to be perfect, and there's no way that we can guarantee the health of all students, so forth and so on. But this is a way to do to cover something as best we can.
Thank you, Bill. David?
That was the last one? That's it, Amy, for questions?
Yes.
Okay. And then next bullet was we still have concerns about the ability to staff our building on any particular day. Hats off to our staff, our principals who shuffle people around and try to make it. We have not had to close a building yet, and that's not the case with some of our neighboring towns and school districts. So I really give our administrators a lot of credit for that. Other general updates, we had that in service right after we got back in January, addressed the strategic plan, and because some of our staff, a lot of our staff are new, they didn't even know about our strategic plan. So that work went pretty well. All budgets are adopted and the warnings are posted. I didn't know, I thought we could stop for 1 second and maybe the board chairs could just talk about the times and dates of their annual school meetings and who's running for their board. I don't know, Amy, do you want to start?
Sure. So at the Mount Escutney School District, our information meeting is going to be Thursday, February 24th, I believe, at 7. And it will be all virtual. And then we will be voting using Australian ballot on town meeting day. We have 2 vacancies, one in Windsor, and we have Davis McGraw running for that vacancy. There's one in West Windsor. However, I have not heard yet from the West Windsor clerk. The vacancy is Mr. Bill Yates. Is he running? Did he get his candidate certification in?
Yeah, I'm running. What do I have to put in? You can talk to me later.
Yeah, talk offline.
Yeah.
Get to Amy, she'll tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I touched base with Elizabeth, so.
That's good. Yeah. Well, we'll figure it out one way or the other, but yeah, it would be good to email Amy or text Amy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
How about Anne Marie? Do you want to talk about Wethersfield?
Yeah. Yes. our meeting is going to be a hybrid meeting, so people can either log in or we're requesting most people to just come remotely. But if there are any members of the community that's not possible, they're welcome to come in person. We'll be at the school at 10 a.m. on February 26th. At least a couple of us will be to be there in case anybody shows up. But like I said, we're hoping not for a huge crowd to actually show up. Just if there are a few townspeople that don't have good internet, because there are a lot of areas that don't have internet that can support a Zoom meeting or a Google Meets meeting. So we just wanted to be available for everybody. As far as I know, I'm running. I'm up for the 3-year post. I put in my petition today. I believe Mark got his in. He told me he was going to, so hopefully he did. He's running for the 1-year position. And we have an open seat. Kristen Brousseau is not going to run again this year. I did hear from Floanne that she did get, or she gave out a petition to a person named Nicole Gagnon. And I think I've met her once. I'm pretty sure because I remember I was at the Weathersfield, the music series that we had, and she was talking about how her and her family had just moved to the area, and that her husband was on the Parks and Rec board. And Floanne mentioned that this person's husband was on the Parks and Rec board and that they were new to town. So I think it was the same person. And if it is, then she's got a lot of energy because she was out there hula hooping and like teaching a bunch of kids how to hula hoop at the event. So she's got a lot of energy. So that'll be good. I think that'd be nice for our board. So we'll see.
Thanks, Anne Marie. We can start with a little physical activity at the beginning of every meeting. And Heartland, I know Nikki's not here. I don't know whether Colleen or Scott, if you want to just talk about when the information meeting is and who's running. Do you know?
You want to talk, Scott?
Go ahead, Colleen.
We're having a virtual meeting, the school district meetings on February 22nd. Is that our information meeting?
Yes, that's a Monday. Correct.
The warning just went out.
Correct.
So February 22nd at 7 p.m. And I know that Scott Richardson's spot is open. I'm not sure who else is running. Do you know, Scott, what other seat is
vacant
besides yours?
I don't know either, Colleen. I'm sorry.
It's not Beth Roy. That's all I know.
Right. So both. I like
Christine.
I like the way Amy had put it a few minutes ago. She said the seats were vacant. I think that's a good way to put that. And then whether it's a 2 or 3 year term, somebody runs for it, and they may run again, or they may be another person. I'm not running.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Scott decided not to run. I think I
Scott,
heard.
you're not running again?
I am not.
Oh my.
I know.
Yes. Scott goes way back.
Christine, your hand is raised.
We can't hear you, though.
Thank you, Colleen.
Christine getting her sound on? Maybe not.
Okay. And she's running again, I suppose. I presume.
Who's that?
Nikki.
Okay,
Nikki's
yeah,
seat is
Nikki was the other one who was, okay, good. All right, so Monday, Thursday, and Saturday are our annual school meetings. Sub-degree temperatures makes the morning delay call a tough one. It's what keeps superintendents literally up all night. And so far, we've only had to have one delay, but hang on tight. It's going to get a little cold toward the end of the week, but we're braving it. When we are holding our own. It really does matter on whether the buses think they can run or roll. Finishing up the second round of Exact Path, which is part of our data recovery. I know Brittany was going to talk about data recovery, but you know what? We might save that till next month because it's running a little late here tonight. We've got a couple of things to do. So Sorry, Brittany, I know you were going to share a little bit with us. And then we have NAEP testing. That's the National Association of Elementary Progress. 4th and 8th grade tests are coming up in February. We don't get any local data back on that, which is why we hate giving this, because it takes time. But you know what? Vermont gets state data back, and we always end up at least in the top 10 of the states, if not the top 5. So Vermont does very well on the NAEP. And the Windsor Science Fair last week, we talked about that. Thanks, Colleen, for sharing that. And then the equity audit update, I will talk about that in just a second, so hang on tight. Teachers contract negotiations. Bill, Scott, and Jackie still are our representatives. We're just getting the final signatures to the teachers contract now. I mean, there were little typos and stuff. You've got to just make everybody happy before they'll sign it, but we're basically there. ESP means the support staff negotiations have started. We have our 3rd session this Wednesday. I think we're pretty close. I'd be shocked, knock on wood, if we didn't wrap it up on Wednesday. So then we'll have multi-year contracts with both the teachers and with the support staff. So we're cautiously optimistic that that session will wrap it up. And last but not least, task force will meet soon to review and prioritize action steps. That's coming up with our equity task force. And we do have the equity audit baseline, and I'm going to send out the RFP on that baseline. I just really finalized it with the company that's helping us put the baseline equity audit RFP together, and we're still not sure if Springfield's coming in with us or not, but I would say by tomorrow or Wednesday I can get that out to everybody so you can see it. There's no rush on it because the timeline is not till March into April, with a start date of somewhere around July. We just felt this would not be a good time for people crawling over data or walking through schools and all that stuff. So we'll probably wait till the summer to start that audit. And then last but not least, we sent out with the packet Mary Gannon's proposal. I thought it was very reasonable. She put some hour amounts to it, and it looks like the contract would not exceed $6,000. I would love maybe under items for action if we could approve that proposal, because I know she'd like to start working with the board on getting the job description together for a diversity, equity, and inclusion director, coordinator, whatever that title is going to be, and also start working on board training. That was what we had talked about. So I don't know if there's any questions, or we want to take that up under discussion items, Amy. But I'm done.
Great, thank you. Did you share that proposal?
Everybody should have Mary Gannon's proposal. If not, I can put it in the chat. Let me just stop presenting. Let me see if I can get to that. I'll put the in case you didn't get it, I think Lori sent it out with all the stuff, but I'm putting it in the chat now so that when we discuss it, you'll have it. I think it's view only, but make a copy if you're going to play around with it, all right?
Okay, thank you.
That's it for my report.
And okay, does anyone have any questions or comments for David? Hearing and seeing none, we will move on to items for discussion. The first one being the 22-23 school calendar.
Right, and that went out with the packet too. You should have seen it. There's nothing really unique in that calendar. We're going to start before Labor Day. All of the vacation dates have to match up with the Hartford Technical Center, which they do. But usually the SU board has had a motion to approve that calendar for the ensuing school year.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to see it? We can put that on items for action.
Yes, I did not see it.
Yeah, that would have gone out with I just looked at Lori's email. It went out with the packet. But I can see let me see if I can get a link to that. Hold on.
I actually don't think I got the packet this week, David. That was one of the things when I was looking for the tonight's meetings thing, the code for tonight's meeting. I wasn't able to find the packet for this week. So I think it got through to me. I don't know if it got caught in my spam filter or what, but I didn't get it.
Right. So Jamie didn't get it. I didn't get it either.
Well, that kind of
Yeah.
that
Looks
kind
like
of
none
says
of us
maybe it didn't go out. Okay, let me forward the email from Lori. And it looks like it's got everything in it, including the calendar, the equity proposal. And what I'll do is I'll share it with, I'm going to email it to the whole, I'll email it to the Weathersfield board, Montescutney board, even though they're not all, this is just the easiest way to do it. And the Heartland board. Yeah, that's unusual for Lori to, she's usually pretty, all right, there we go. All right, it should be coming to your email now with all of those attachments. Tell me if that doesn't happen. I know it's possible with chasing test kits and everything, it might have just been an oversight.
Those legs on test kits are pretty short. She shouldn't have a hard time catching them.
Did everybody get that in their email?
Yes, thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
So in all seriousness, and I can look it through, does this match HACTC exactly? Yes. Okay. Yes, because that did create some issues this year because of it was almost a 2-week difference at the beginning of the year.
No, that's because we started after Labor Day.
Yeah.
Now that shouldn't happen again. Sometimes there's a 2-day start date because they've got a few more in-service days, or we have a few more, but it won't be like last year, believe me.
Okay. Because I know that's why Lebanon High School follows the Vermont schedule.
Right, because of the tech center.
Yeah, they've got 70 kids in the tech center.
Yeah.
Right, and in the past, when our start day has differed from the tech center, we've provided a bus. We've taken the students for their tech center time.
Yeah, we do. We get them there. Yeah.
That's
true.
But it is.
Well, two weeks last year was tough. That was tough.
Yeah. And when you have a high school student and then you have, or a junior or a senior student, and you have a freshman or younger student, and one has to start school really early and the other doesn't, that can create interesting family dynamics.
And I'll find out why this didn't get out ahead of time. I'm sure it was just some sort of a glitch, but because she's usually so thorough. But I'll check on that. And don't ever, she tries to get it out a week ahead of time. So it would have gone out early last week. If you don't get it by the Friday of the meeting, then email me, because that means something went wrong.
Okay. And there were just so many things going on.
I know.
Week that keeping up with, okay, I got that agenda, because there were about 3 other agendas that I was having to look at. So.
And if people want time to look at that calendar, we can give you time. I don't send it out to our parent community until the SU board has approved it. But we don't have to do that tonight. I don't think anybody's thinking about the start of school right now, but You know, planning is critical. People do like to know fairly early so they can plan their vacations.
So when we get to items for action,
Yeah.
I will ask that question.
Okay. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have ARP ESSER 3 plan. And I think that would be Angie.
It is. Hang on a second. I'm going to share my screen. David, you might want to mute.
Yeah, I just realized that.
It's slow. Helps if I push the button though. I'll admit that. Come on. Shh. Sorry, I started at the end. Maybe I need to go back to the beginning. So the basic, so ARP ESSER 3 is that third pot of money that we've gotten American Rescue Plan, Elementary and Secondary Schools Education Relief Fund, which I probably didn't quite get it all right. But there are different requirements around this pot of money than what we have had in the past for ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. This year, so last spring, we shared with you our recovery plan. We also shared with you our budget for how we were going to utilize ESSER 2 funds. And ESSER 3 has a much broader, what do they call it? Community feedback loop where you have to do meaningful consultation. So we have done that to the best of our ability. We've had community forums, we've had surveys, we've had opportunity for students, staff, and community members. And we hope that this plan reflects that feedback. So in tonight's presentation, you'll review 3 areas of our recovery plan. You'll review what our data collection activities have set as priorities, review how recovery is achieved through a braiding of funding sources. We will review how the 3 recovery areas will be supported in the ARP ESSER 3 plan. You will understand how those funds are distributed among the 3 recovery areas. Actually, there's a 4th one in ESSER 3. And we will determine a date for our public community forum during which public comment and discourse will be invited. The 3 recovery categories are social emotional learning, mental health and well-being, engagement and truancy, and academic achievement and success. Stakeholder feedback identifies 3 main areas of concern: mental health investments, not only for students, but for staff as well, academic intervention, and maintaining small class sizes. We accomplished those aims through a braiding of funding sources. So not only are we using local funding, each of your districts have had their budgets approved now, and you know that in those budgets there have been some investments in things that will increase our opportunities for students to be supported. Fully staffed building encourages and supports mental health for our staff. The people that are having the right people in the right places, as you know, decreases the amount of stress and allows us to better meet the needs of our students. We have several federal grant funding mechanisms, consolidated federal programs, Titles 1, 2, and 4, and the ESSER grant funding. ESSER 1 is pretty much wrapped up. I just submitted a final amendment. And then ESSER 2 is, we're still in the midst of working with that one. And then ARP ESSER 3. Idea B is our special education funding. We also have 2 other grants through ARP, a homeless grant for around $8,000, and then ARP Idea B, which is, I guess, around 129,000. And then, of course, there are other grant funds, local grants, as well as state grants. So the distribution by the recovery plan areas, we are going to look at, first, we're going to look at social, emotional, and mental health. It's in the upper right-hand corner. And you will see that we have about 6% of our total ARP ESSER funding going toward social, emotional learning and mental health supports. These are anxiety coaching services for students, a Power School add-on for behavior data. Currently, we don't have a mechanism to collect our behavior data, which makes it very challenging for us to determine if our interventions are having an impact. Professional development and materials for Leader in Me. I hope now you understand why this is definitely a investment for improving our social emotional learning of our students. School-based clinicians, not limited to HCRS, could be from other sources as well. A social emotional screener tool, Panorama, that subscription, and some professional learning that goes along with it, as well as investments for staff mental health support. Not quite sure what that looks like yet. I'll be reaching out to staff to ask for more ideas for what that could possibly look like. In the area of engagement, oh, I apologize. We have 15% in social emotional learning, and then there's 6% in engagement. I thought that was a little bit off. Now you may be thinking that's a very little amount to spend on engagement, but what you'll notice is many of the investments that we have in social emotional learning, mental health, as well as in academic success, support student engagement. Students who feel ready to do their academics and feel supported will be showing up and engaging in classroom. That's our theory anyway. One of those things in addition is at 912, we have a peer mentor, and we will be continuing to support smaller class sizes, increase mental health services and coaching, as well as Leader in Me, which we believe leads to greater student engagement. Academic success is where the bulk of our funds are being invested, 72%. Those are things for our reduced class size classroom teachers. There are 2 of those positions in each of our districts. Our transitional kindergarten includes a teacher, a support staff, supplies, and transportation from their home-based schools. The recovery coordinator, she is building our MTSS system. She is formalizing data systems and allowing us to use data in a much broader way than we ever have before. And she's also working on how we communicate about that data. And she is also helping us improve communications about what's happening in the Curriculum Instruction Assessment Office. Summer Academy is a big investment that we make, and that includes teacher support staff, mental health support, supplies, and transportation. The last area is just another area, and this is monies that we would like to set aside for improving our computer network infrastructure. That it is the equivalent of about 6%. Whoops. So this last slide just kind of shows you the beginning numbers for the preliminary for the budget. It really is preliminary because we have a new contract right now. So all those positions in the budget need to be updated with updated wages and benefits. So until I know those numbers, I can't provide a more solid budget. This gives you an idea. 390,000 for social, emotional, and mental health, 152,000 for engagement, 1.9 roughly million for academic success. And this is over 2 years, please. I forgot to mention that. This is for next year, FY23, and the following year, FY24. And then 155,500 for the computer network infrastructure. Our next steps are we would like to present the ARP ESSER plan to the community for public discussion. The first draft of that plan is due March 30th. And then we will be drafting the budget, presenting the budget to the board, posting that budget on our website, and asking for public feedback and comment. And then we will submit the budget. And I don't quite remember what that date is. I don't know that I know it. I think it's September 30th, 2024 or something like that. So I think we got a while on the budget. Are there any questions?
Nancy?
Is Summer Academy going to be able to continue after the ESSER funds are gone?
I think that's a question that the board should consider. It is a very, we have a budget of about 180,000 for that. And that is all RPESER. And I know special ed has their own things that they add to that. So, but that's all part of the special ed mechanism, funding mechanism.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I wanted to let Nancy know, we are good for this summer and the summer after. ESSER runs right through September 1 of 24, so we should be good. But I think this board needs to talk at some point, and our local boards, about robust summer recovery programs, because this was not really a recovery year.
Thank you.
Right.
There are having that discussion about maintaining these efforts is something that school boards, all our school boards should be thinking about in terms of the positions that we are funding through ESSER funds and the programs that we're offering. And the board, of course, for the supervisory union positions, we need to look really carefully about what we would be locally continuing on.
Thank you, Angie. So in terms of the initial conversation, community forum, you said that the draft budget is due March 30th. So you would like something.
The draft budget, the plan.
Yeah. So you would like that conversation a couple of weeks prior to that?
Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, the plan does ask you to put a budget in, but I don't think I have to submit the budget in the grant management software for a while. So it's sort of like just an outline, probably much like what I've done already would satisfy the RPESER plan. I have to look more carefully at it. There's all these moving pieces.
Okay.
So we get the plan. That's the big thing.
Yeah. So will you be setting up, looking at your calendar, David's calendar?
It's real, Amy. I appreciate that. And I'm just thinking end of February is town meeting time, and everybody's out straight with that whole week, the last week of February. And then I'm thinking if Brittany and I can put our heads together, and we would certainly appreciate and welcome board members to come to that meeting, but it'll be much the same way that we did it when we were doing community forums to gather input and feedback. If that's pleases the board, we'll do that way, and then maybe we can have it before February break.
Okay. Yeah.
And then at the March SU meeting, we could report out, where we are. Yeah. I mean, I was going to say this, Amy, we don't have to go this route, but because the end of the February month is so busy with town meetings and annual school presentations, we've sometimes skipped an SU meeting in February, but I'm not suggesting that, but we have done that in the past.
Yeah, we can get to that towards the end of this meeting. But yeah, if you'll just let us know, Angie, the date, and then
okay.
Because I think it's good that we continue with the community engagement.
Yes.
It's showing good faith in our community response. And it's also part of, we're modeling Leader in Me, giving our community an opportunity to respond to, and for us to respond to their needs as well. So I think it's all good.
Okay, thank you. That week, the week before break, we have board meetings Monday and Tuesday nights, so it'll likely be the Wednesday or Thursday of that week.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Meetings upon meetings. It's always fun. Thank you.
And if we don't get a broad enough response from that, then we can determine if we want to have another one in March. Second week of March could also work.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none. Thank you again, Angie. And we'll look forward to hearing about when that forum is going to be. And we are moving on to public participation policy. And let me get to that on my other screen. Does anyone, so our old public participation policy was revised July 1st, 2019. I know that Elizabeth has a lot in terms, so this would be the first reading of this policy. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Proposed policy, yes.
I put it in the chat too, Amy, just so in case
Okay.
you can't open it quickly.
Great, thanks.
We talked briefly about this last time.
Right, and it's just all of the when we're asking for our residents in our communities for community engagement, we need to make sure that we have a useful and sustainable method for people to comment or participate in our meetings. And also in light of not all participation being as positive as we would like, we also need to have a few ground rules and to let our community understand what the roles and responsibilities are of the board as well as our community members in terms of participation at a board meeting or a public meeting. So again, this is the first reading. So at our next meeting, whenever that is scheduled, we will have more discussion and possibly approve it. Scott.
Thank you, Amy. Just to clarify, is it the policy that we're looking at for public participation, is that a fresh one from VSBA? Or is that the policy that's on the books from 2019?
That's the policy that's on the books. The fresh one I'm going to put in the chat right now.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah. That was in the alleged packet you were supposed to receive, but there it is, and it's in the forwards that I sent. And like Amy said, it's just first reading.
And it still has the VSBA code A21. But this is, it's a complete revision of our public participation policy. And it's based on information that was received and discussed during a VSBA workshop on public participation. And there are two in the chat, Bill, and no one has access to that document, David.
Okay, let me,
There was a lot of technical challenges for this agenda.
yeah, I guess so.
Is the
Yeah,
one that you sent an email, the old one or the new one?
You can,
There is in the packet that David sent
Yeah,
with all the attachments.
yeah.
There is the old one, and then if you look further, there is a new one.
All right,
No.
let's
That-
try this now. I'm gonna try it again, see if this works. If not, I'm gonna try one other thing, but this is the, it should have come, when I forwarded Lori Brown's items, it should be in there too, but maybe not.
Yeah, because in that email, there are several attachments.
I see 5.
Yeah.
Minutes, calendar, public participation policy, agenda, and equity proposal.
Yeah.
Use the one that David just posted in the link
Okay.
at 8:46,
Do you have access now?
and that's
Okay.
working.
Thank you.
Okay.
Minor
Thanks.
glitches, sorry.
So that is what we will be working with at our next meeting.
Correct. Now, what about Mary Gannon's proposal?
Okay, that will also be item for action. Thank you. Were people able to look at that?
I can share that link in the chat too.
And thank you, Scott, for sharing the link of the VSBA model policy.
Okay, I just shared Mary Gannon's proposal. That should have gone out with the packet. We looked at that last week or last month, but it didn't have numbers attached to it. Now she's got numbers attached to it, and it would be a proposal not to exceed 6,000. And that would be for the work. And again, I say this with trepidation, but we do have, we can bank on probably some ESSER money for that because we have not hired an equity coordinator. We did have some money in that proposed ESSER pot for equity coordination, but but I know that was a high priority. And I'd like to get Mary going on that, if everybody's okay with that.
Okay, Bill, your hand is raised.
Oh, thank you. This may sound a little strange, but in the education world, anything under $8,000 is quite reasonable.
That's a good.
But I'm wondering if somebody on the board who is more closely aligned with working with this, and I know Nikki's not here tonight, could speak about their opinion about this.
Also, Elizabeth is not here tonight.
Yeah, she was the big, Elizabeth, you know, has a lot of experience with Mary Gannon, and she was the one that had proposed her initially, and then I've had probably 2 or 3 meetings with Mary since then, exchanged some contract work back and forth. I know Elizabeth isn't feeling well tonight. She would have loved to have been here, and she said, please let the board know I completely support her work.
Rebecca, your hand is raised.
I was just going to repeat what David said. I know that Elizabeth has high regards for Mary's work and has supported what she does. And I did have an opportunity to read the proposal, David, and I would have to agree with Bill. You were saying it's not going to exceed $6,000 based on the numbers. I didn't get that last piece, but I think that it probably would be a good idea for to move forward with this proposal and at least have Mary begin to identify the path to introducing this piece at this point.
Yeah.
I would like to move to, I don't know how to put this, vote to approve this proposal.
Yeah, not to exceed 6,000.
Not to
Probably
see 6,000, yeah.
should be in the
Okay.
minute.
I was going to ask for a motion for that. Okay, Bill has made that motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Markle second.
many seconds.
Oh my goodness, it was a race to second.
Who gets it?
Give it a mark. He's been quiet tonight.
You okay with that, Rebecca?
Absolutely.
I think that was Rebecca's.
No, go ahead. Go for it, Laura.
I'm writing
all
down
right.
Mark.
So I am going to go. Are there any other comments or questions on this topic before I do a roll call vote? Okay, we are ready. Anne Marie.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Colleen.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
And Mark.
Aye.
Nancy.
Aye. And I just have to say, I don't think any of us read the minutes because we didn't have the packet and we all okayed the minutes, but we'll just let that slide.
It's a very trusting group. I assumed you all had the packet.
Thank you, Nancy. And Rebecca.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Okay. And I, Amy, vote aye. So it is unanimous.
So
we
Amy,
can-
I was going to say, just to be clear, what'll happen next is Mary will probably come to the next board meeting with a specific work plan, you know, so that we have a timeline of her work with us. So that's how we'll start. I just want to make sure everybody understood that. I'll give her the news tomorrow that she's on board.
Excellent. Thank you. Just making a note. Okay. So our next item for action, if people are ready for this, is to approve the calendar. And Bill Gates, your hand is raised.
Quick, I posted in the chat. There's really not significant difference. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And I know the Hartford admin pulled in some opinions, which is why there's some in-service that are a little different, but it's really not it aligns pretty well. About as well as it does any year, normal year.
Right. Rebecca?
Bill, does does that mean that our kids would not miss any classes at the Hartford Tech Center with this calendar?
Correct.
No, they would miss very few though. The Hartford Tech Center would start a day early. They would not go to the Hartford Tech Center. I think it's March 23rd and 24th. No, that's February 23rd and 24th. That's a in service. Hartford starts school a day earlier after vacation. So it's nothing huge. And especially with the day early of the start of the year and the holiday, there's no reason why they can't go to those classes.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to say, we as a school district can supply the transportation that's necessary for them to.
Right.
Correct.
It's particularly important for them to go on the first day. And I think we should plan to advertise that to the tech center that there will be a bus that will go up. And, the first day is always pretty important.
Right.
But
Matter of fact, I think the tech center has reimbursed us for that bus. Yeah, we let every parent know that we're going to travel on that.
Yeah.
On that 30th. With the calendar, just so everybody knows, because this may be the first time people have been through this, and Hartford faces this too. Our teacher contract says that I have to meet with the union, which I've done twice now. Calendars are a lot of fun. Meet with the administrative team, then you meet with the union, and you try to come up with a general consensus that this works for everybody. Yeah. It never matches exactly, but it's as close as it's ever been.
Yeah, with me, it goes back and forth at Hartford, between Hartford and Union. Then when it's all done, I have to make all the corrections because they usually miss a day somewhere.
Exactly. You got to make sure you got the right count. This has the right count.
Okay. So if we are ready to do this, I will take a motion to approve the calendar.
So moved.
Okay, so we're gonna. Bill made the motion and Nancy was a quick second. Any other questions or comments? Jamie.
I just have a quick question. The calendar for this school year has early release days on pretty much every last Friday of the month. And this one, I only noticed the early release day before the Christmas holiday. Is that something that's added after the fact?
Yeah, that's a great point, Jamie. That's a separate conversation that we'll have with the local boards and with this board probably next month or in March. And when this goes out to the public, which it won't right away, but we'll mention that there may be some additional release days. But this board decides that in consultation with the local boards. Good catch, though, Jamie.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Bill.
I'd just like to say thank you to the admin for aligning it with the HACTC calendar, because I just think that opportunity for Windsor students is extremely important.
Thank you, Bill. If we are ready, I will go with the roll call, beginning with Anne Marie.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Colleen.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Nancy.
Aye.
Rebecca.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
And I, Amy, vote aye. So, Another unanimous vote. Thank you, everyone. Were there any other items in items for action? I think that covers it. Next, we are setting the agenda for our next meeting. And of course, I don't have my calendar with me. What is the fourth Monday of February? Does that happen to be?
It's the 28th.
The 28th. So the 28th is the information meeting for the town of Windsor. So I would not be able to make a school board meeting.
Many people, right?
I'm sorry?
So wouldn't all three of you from Madison County School District not be able to attend?
Correct.
No. So this is the town of Windsor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think by default or something to that effect, I am going to be the moderator for our virtual Windsor town meeting, information meeting. So I would not be able to be here for the school board meeting. However, that does not preclude anyone from having that meeting because we do have an admirable vice chair in Mr. Bill Yates.
Thank you very much.
So I will take comments if anyone wants to say yay, nay to a meeting on the 28th of February.
Is there any particular business we need to finish before
Before town meeting?
before town meeting?
Rebecca?
Is that the meeting, David, that Mary would attend?
Yeah, I will clear that date with her, but she certainly could. We could spend a little time going over a work plan from her, which we will try to get out before the meeting. We would have the second reading of that policy, right?
Right, and Elizabeth and Nikki. Or no, I guess Elizabeth is the public participation policy. Yeah, so Elizabeth would be here. Although she might not be because she would come spend a little bit of time at the Windsor information meeting because
good point.
legislators. Is there another day in February that perhaps we could have a short meeting that would include Mary and looking at that policy?
Yeah.
Are there any issues with just the week before, the 21st?
Usually.
It looks okay to me on my end.
Senior night.
When is a senior night?
The 21st.
Is that senior night for basketball? Is that what you're talking about?
That'd be
Larry?
the boys. Let me check with the girls.
Yeah, the only night we don't have a board meeting that week would be the 23rd, 21st and 23rd, but I think 21st might present some conflict.
23rd's open.
23rd is open, right?
And that's the Wednesday?
That's the Wednesday. It would be a busy board meeting week, but we can do it.
Are people good with, so we can meet with Mary, we can look at that policy and we can have a virtual party for Scott and try to talk him into running a write-in.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like on that agenda, Colleen, I know you're trying to scratch notes. The other thing is I think we should look at that request for proposals for the equity audit. So just put the RFP equity audit on there for next agenda items, the policy and Mary Gannon's work. So yeah, and I'll get a hold of Mary. So do we want to go with that? Is that a go?
Works for me.
Yes. Yes, thank you. And thanks everyone for being very flexible.
I'll be very late, but I'll come.
Thank you, Nancy. And
I missed the date. What date would we settle on?
February 23rd, I think, right?
Yes.
Nancy, I'll be early just to balance it out for you.
And he'll take copious notes for you.
Okay, you should have the invite. We'll get that cleaned up. And we will get packets out this time.
Yay, excellent, thank you. And let me see, do we need executive session?
I don't think we do. Rebecca has her hand up though.
Rebecca.
I just wanted to say that I was really disappointed with hearing that Scott's not running, but I really do encourage you, Amy, to encourage him.
Scott's shaking his head. That's
yeah, but I'm really sorry to hear that.
It's been really fun and challenging and rewarding. That's the word I'm looking for. Working with the board in Heartland and this board, and I really respect you guys and feel great about the few years that we've done this. I thank you all. Thank you.
Well, Scott, I want to thank you for all of the work and just your thoughtfulness. I've always considered you to be a voice of reason. You remind us to keep in the common direction and a positive direction and not straying. And yes, so thank you. We will miss you. And I will still be, I'll send you emails. Come on, Scott, write in.
Scott, didn't you volunteer to do negotiations in 3 years just to come back to do that?
No, I didn't, Bill. You must have misheard that.
I don't know.
But I'm gonna really miss your kids running in front of the camera.
Well, thank you, Scott. So if there aren't any other comments or information to share, I will take a motion to adjourn our meeting at 9:08.
So moved.
Second.
That was Nancy and Rebecca. And does everyone raise their hand? Yay, we wave, and I'll see you all on the 23rd. Have a good week. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.